Canada is probably still one of the most desirable countries in the world. I think they do a sort of migration index where they ask potential migrants where they would like to move. And I think other than the US and Germany, Canada is like third. So like it's one of the most desirable, and it has one of the higher indexes. That is like the amount of people that want to move there proportional to the total population. I think Switzerland is number one, but like Canada's up there, you know. And there's some quite obvious reasons why. It's just like a very pleasant country, like a good yeah, it's got good wages. It's open to immigration. You can integrate fairly easy. Honestly, nature there is just beautiful. The cold is kind of a problem, but depending where you're from, it's not really an issue. And I really do believe that with most types of weather, you can kind of fit in like eventually. You know, like some people don't, but like most people do. And Canada has been a hub for immigration for well, for 3 or 4 centuries now because obviously it was pretty much built on immigration. And its population keeps growing. I think it's past 40 something million now. So it's growing. It's growing pretty consistently. Over 20% of the population is actually born abroad, which is a pretty high number. It's fairly higher than the US actually, where it's lower than 15%. It's not as high as like Australia or Switzerland, but it's getting there. It's getting there. But the thing is, it's amazing how, from everything I've perceived, and also from having lived there for a while, how much worse it got, and how much like how sudden but also silent it was. Because if you asked anyone in 2010 or 2009, like Canada was like top notch, one of the best countries in the world, and for everything, including wages. Its GDP was pretty much on pair with the US. It was a truly remarkable place, let's say. And as of now, I've seen the data for 2024, I think, and Canada is pretty much like almost like 50% behind, I think. I think the yeah, it's a little less than 50. So like the GDP, the US GDP is like 150% of what the Canadian is. So it's around like a third bigger, yeah, something like that. It's definitely like a good chunk bigger than Canada nowadays. And you see a lot of stories of like Canadians moving down south, as for any different professions. So like doctors, technology, software is very common as well. But CEOs, like international executives, that kind of thing, like they all move down to the U.S. and they make a whole lot of money. Uh, well, extra compared to when compared to Canada. Obviously, living crisis in Canada, it's even worse than the one in the U.S. and in other Western countries. Vancouver and Toronto, even though they do not offer the highest salaries in North America, like I said, most of the highest salaries in North America are in the U.S. They do offer some of the highest priced housing in North America. So Canada, in that sense, has been a victim of its own success. You know, so many people have moved into such a few array of cities where it's pretty much well realistically Vancouver and Toronto, but then if you want to add like I don't know Montreal to it and a couple others, fine. But it's mostly just like 2 or 3 cities where everyone's been clogging in, and yeah, that shows in pretty much everything. That shows in house prices. That shows in just the confusion overall in the cities. I've actually never been to Vancouver. I've been to Toronto and Montreal. Like I've been east but not west. And what I hear about Vancouver is that it's truly like on pair with like the SF sort of homeless problem. House prices are just through the roof, and like I said, it all happened so suddenly. Even when I was there in 2018, that was a while ago. Uh, there was already some signs that it was sort of problematic, but definitely like it was definitely still a top-notch country, and it still sort of is. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna pretend that Canada is a third world country or anything, and I think a lot of people do. So a lot of people open a mic, like they open a camera and they're like, "Oh shit, Canada is a third world country. America's a third world." No, it isn't. Like, no, it isn't. You're either being foolish or naive or just lying or you've never been to a third world country in your life. Like Canada is clearly a good country still. The US is still a very good country still. It's just amazing how much worse it's gotten compared to what it used to be. Let's put it that way. And it's definitely a recurring theme in the Western world overall, in the English-speaking world overall. But for example, I really do believe that 15 years ago, Canada and Australia were pretty much on pair in terms of like what they offered, and even though Australia has been having some problems as well, I think it's definitely gotten the upper hand with just how wages here are. I'm in Australia right now, by the way, so that's the context. Yeah, with how Australia's wages are, with how it's dealt with overall housing, I think definitely housing in Canada is on average more unaffordable than housing in Australia, and definitely more unaffordable than housing in America. So I think around 20% of my viewers are American, and think about it, like if you're struggling, yeah, you're probably one of the better off. Actually, America, in proportion to its wages, is still one of the countries that has one of the lowest wage to price ratio. So that means, or one of the highest, yeah, I guess one of the highest wage to price ratios, one of the lowest price to wage ratio. Yeah, right. So pretty much, the houses in America are some of the cheapest that they could be compared to Australia, Canada, even the UK, and most of Europe. And if you're already struggling in America, imagine how much more you would struggle in these other countries to buy a house. But yeah, and I don't really have a clear solution to this other than I think I don't want to get too political, but Canada has gotten into some pretty bad policy. I think one of the most famous ones that people mostly agree with is that there are tariffs between provinces, which makes no sense. I mean, free trade is good overall, but free trade within a country is definitely good. And so, like, this tariffs are really stupid. Canada has been a country that historically has pretty much lived off its natural resources, and with an effort to go green, it definitely hurts a few of the industries that were responsible for Canada being that well off. Now, that might be a trade-off that you want to make, but it definitely is a reason why Canada's been struggling. And an extra reason, to be fair, why Canada is struggling. Canada is struggling for the same reason that Brazil is struggling, for the same reason that Australia is struggling, that a lot of countries that are very natural resources based are struggling, which is the commodities boom of the 2000s just isn't there anymore. It hasn't been there for a while. And if you talk to anyone in 2010, like I said, Canada was doing great, Australia was doing great, Brazil was doing great, China was doing great. But as China's population not only stagnates but starts to go down, and its production starts to go down, and with trade wars just lowering overall trade, some of the biggest some of the countries that are going to be hurt the most by this are countries that mainly export commodities for industries, and Canada is definitely one of them. Australia is one of them. Brazil is one of them. There's a bunch of them. But yeah, I want to hear if you're Canadian, if you've lived in Canada more recently. Like I said, it's been well now nearly 7 years since I've been to Canada. Definitely want to hear what you think. I'm trying to get a little more not engagement, but like I'm trying to be a bit more organic with like how I do things here, and with like just talking to you and seeing your opinions down in the comments, because I definitely don't know everything about things. I've been around, I've lived in a bunch of places, but a lot of my views are very limited. So if you have anything that you think you can contribute to this, just feel free to comment down below, and I'll see you in another video. All right, cheers.